Point, I've just concluded that for me personally, it is important for me to go ahead and affirm that I think same-sex couples should be able to get married.
Well, that is President Obama in an exclusive interview with Good Morning America's Robin Roberts declaring his support for same-sex marriage. It's the first time a sitting president has expressed support on the issue, and it came just one day after North Carolina voters overwhelmingly passed a constitutional amendment defining marriage in their state as between one man and one woman. For gay couples across the country, President Obama's stance is welcome news, but here in Georgia and many other states, same-sex couples still cannot get married. Here with us in the studio this morning, Philip Hoover and Ed Westreicher. Good to have you both here with us.
Good morning.
I got to get your reaction for when the president came out and spoke a couple of weeks ago. It was the breaking news. A lot of people had heard he was going to do a sit-down interview after Joe Biden had gone on with Meet the Press, and then the president wanted to sit down with Robin Roberts. The momentum was kind of building. There was a lot of talk and chatter out there that he was going to come out and support a gay marriage. Nobody really knew exactly what he was going to do. You guys saw what he had to say. Your reaction when you were hearing it come out of the president's mouth?
Well, I think we sort of expected it. It was a momentous occasion that any sitting president would come out in favor of gay marriage, especially while still in office. But I think most of us knew that deep down inside, this is probably where he was. And I have to admit, this is personal opinion, but I think there's probably a little bit of political posturing in terms of his timing. But at the end of the day, it's a huge, huge push for our community to have a sitting president actually come out and acknowledge that they think the gay marriage should be.
It certainly isn't something that I think people of our generation ever thought would happen. Mm-hmm. And so for the president to come out and support gay marriage was, it's a phenomenal event. And I think it really is telling of how the tides are changing.
Yeah, and we were talking about, you talk about the tides changing. If you go back to 2004, where you had Proposition 8 out west in California, and people did not want gay marriage. It was only about 30 or 35% in favor of gay marriage. And now you see this huge, this huge momentum change, if you will, even across the country. But we just saw what happened in North Carolina, right? Mm-hmm. Every time it goes a state-by-state vote, it usually gets amended to define marriage between a man and a woman. Yet the national polls show a lot of people in support of gay marriage. How do you make sense of this?
Well, you have to look at the states where the votes are occurring. So if there wasn't the political will to pass a marriage ban, the state probably wouldn't have it in the legislature to begin with. So you're talking about the Southeast, where people are largely against it. Mm-hmm. But if you look at the national polls, you're right. It is the majority are for gay marriage. So you really are looking at specific states that where the majority of the people are against gay marriage to begin with.
Okay.
Yeah.
Some people would say, in New York you can get married, in Connecticut you can get married, in Massachusetts you can get married. Of course, we see the legal fight happening in California. Some would say, would you ever consider leaving a place like Atlanta to move to one of those states, or have you ever considered doing that so that your marriage, your partnership, would be recognized legally?
Well, I think that's not really very realistic. You're tied to the community, you're tied to your friends, your relationships, your family, your employers, which is probably the #1 driver for where people choose to reside. And I think it's unrealistic to expect people to move and change their state residency just to sort of get the rights that come with marriage in that state. I mean, what we're trying to do is build a life for ourselves in the state where we choose to live and have the benefit of the rights and the liberties that come along with the institution of marriage.
And I think, too, that if most of the rights are federal, and so even if we're married in D.C., mm-hmm. but it doesn't grant us any rights, so we wouldn't move to D.C. because it wouldn't make a difference. We would simply lose our jobs here in Atlanta.
Got it. DOMA. Let's talk about DOMA real quick, and certainly the issues that's going to be bringing up on the campaign trail. A lot of people talking about it. Do you feel that over a period of time, the U.S. Supreme Court will hear this case and find DOMA to be unconstitutional? Is that the hope here?
They'll have to. And if you think about civil rights, whether you're talking about women's suffrage or you're talking about the civil rights movements of the 50s and 60s, it's always the judiciary that ends up driving it. Whether 1953, you had Brown v. Board of Education, you had Loving v. Virginia. It's always the judiciary because they're not subject to a popular vote. And so, yes, I do believe that they'll hear it in our lifetimes. I'm not sure if they're going to grant cert. I think what they'll do is they'll wait till a time where there's such a split in the circuits that you have radically different rights from state to state. And that's an untenable position for a U.S. citizen.
You know, I was watching Rachel Maddow the other night, and she put it best. It really kind of summed up the whole argument, is that, you know, we don't vote on civil rights because they're rights, right? And when you let a majority vote on rights of the minority, history shows usually the minority is always going to suffer, as it always has. How do you change the way people have a perception of gay couples and gay marriage in the South, in a place like Atlanta?
Well, I think, you know, basically doing what we're doing. There's a lot of discussion around, you know, the gay agenda, and quite frankly, it's puzzling to us. You know, we go to work every day, we come home, we cook dinner, we think about a weekend, we support the local community through the arts or the botanical garden we contribute to. It's just living normal lives. It's interacting with people at work, it's interacting with your neighbors, and it's just doing normal things. And I think that the more people who have an opportunity to know someone who's gay or lesbian, who can interact with those people, understand that it's really, there's no difference. I mean, we're all human beings, and that's the most important thing. And I think the biggest thing that can contribute to it is, you know, the president coming out, creating an opportunity for dialogue.
And the NAACP coming out, which was huge.
Which will be a huge benefit in sparking a dialogue in the African American community.
Yeah, because you know the African American community, for the most part, has as a majority within their community, has been against gay marriage, and have the NAACP come out and acknowledge it as a civil right, because a lot of people were battling, is gay marriage even a civil right? And kind of with the NAACP coming out in support of gay marriage, I think silenced a lot of people and took even the gay community, made them kind of take a step back. I don't think a lot of people were even expecting that, but it is good to have both of you on the show. Philip Hoover and Ed Westreicher, we appreciate your time this morning.
Great, thank you.
All right, very good. Stay with us. We'll be right back.